Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. And today we're talking about 8-tracks. And why we're talking about 8-tracks? Because I got the coolest book I never in a million years would have thought existed. It's called Unspooled, An Adventure in 8-Tracks by Tim Durling, with a foreword by none other than the legendary Martin Popoff. A guy like me who likes 8-tracks and who listens to 8-tracks and hunts for 8-tracks, who would have thought a book is out there? But I'm going to show you this book at the end. But let's briefly talk about my history with 8-tracks. I was born in '63. When I was in high school and I got my first car, the first thing I did was went to a store called Cartoons and had them install an 8-track player in my car. And it was one of the happiest days of my life. So even then I was a vinyl guy. CDs didn't exist. But 8-tracks were great because they were portable, right? I could play them in my damn car. And not only that, I could record onto them. So back in those days, radio, like here on Long Island, WLIR, WBAB, WNEW out of New York City, they used to broadcast concerts. So I used to record them onto 8-track. And it was fantastic. And the fact of the matter is, the sound on 8-track at that time was pretty good. In fact, better at that time than cassette, because it was thick. The tapes are thick, probably twice as thick as cassettes. And at that time, cassettes were thin and flimsy. Cassettes didn't have great sound. They came a long way after. So at that time, 8-tracks were pretty good, except for the fact that they might fade, click, fade back in, or even if they didn't fade, they would click, if you recorded on them. But at that time, man, they were just great. And in fact, when I went away to college, I didn't travel with a lot of stuff. I had a boombox, and the boombox played 8-tracks. So what did I do? I brought my 8-tracks up there, and I used to hunt for 8-tracks in Albany at the local record store, and I'd find, working 8-tracks. Even then, that was 81 to 85. So 8-tracks still were around. So for me, that was it. And then this was my player from back in the day. And then I got rid of all my 8-tracks, and you probably heard the story, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, at the local record store, I found my exact player. I mean, the brand, the model. And it was refurbished, and I was like, I got to get that. And ever since then, I am on a hunt for 8-tracks. Now, it's a very frustrating hunt, because most of the 8-tracks out there just don't play. And I'm not that desperate for them that I'm going to fix them. If they don't play, I just toss them. But what you see here is about 50, 48 or something like that, 8-tracks that actually play, and they play really well. And I'll shove one in, So the fact that I was able to find a book about 8-tracks was really cool. And Tim Durling sent me a copy of this book. I reached out to him and I said, I don't only collect 8-tracks, I collect them to play them. I only keep the ones that play. I'm not a collector. And he sent me this book. And it's amazing. And, it sounds like it could be a really dry topic. So if you have no interest in 8-tracks, still check this out. Because what he did, it's a really warm, cozy book. He's kind of telling you his story of his passion with rock and roll music. Now, I'm older than him. But, how his passion was drummed up when he was young from his parents. They had an 8-track player. But he came up with a concept which was really interesting, and he calls it RCOs, meaning record company only. Now, if you're of our age, you would remember record companies, because I did both of them, Columbia House, and I did RCA, which later became BMG. Buy 12 albums for a penny, then you got to buy more, and RCA was a different setup. And I did both of those twice at least, and I actually paid. I didn't rip them off. I loved the record clubs. I thought they were fantastic. But you can get 8-tracks at the record clubs. I did not. I was buying vinyl through them. But they would sell 8-tracks. And the shocking thing was, as 8-tracks started fading away, cassettes got better and better, 8-tracks started fading away, you could actually still get 8-tracks all the way up to 1988. New 8-tracks. I did not know that. But he called them RCOs, record company only. So people who were 8-track fans, like me, but the really big 8-track fans. They were still buying 8-tracks even in the mid to late 80s. And he has done massive research, finding out what 8-tracks were only available through the record clubs that they were still manufacturing. And it's fascinating. So, here's Tim, and he doesn't just talk about 8-tracks in this book. He talks about his love of music, funneled through this 8-track history. And it's awesome. He talks about the magazines he used to read and the cassettes and the vinyl, but of course the 8-track. And there was an 8-track converter that you can plug into your 8-track player to play cassettes. Was interesting, and I remember that. And he talks about the record clubs, and there's, the ads that you used to see in the magazines, like Rolling Stone magazine, or even the newspapers. It was ubiquitous. Is that the good word? There's Journey. And this guy, Tim, has a huge collection. He's got like all the Yes albums on 8-track. So the graphics are just phenomenal. There's some more of the ads from the record clubs. So even if you're not like a huge 8-track guy, and there's very few of us probably, it's still fascinating to see in each particular year the 8-tracks that were still being manufactured and sold by the record clubs. I actually had that Pac-Man machine, Tim, in college. Here's Queen. Everybody loves Queen, right? Here's all the Queen 8-tracks that he has. And then he talks about the differences with 8-tracks. Now, we all know, well, maybe you don't, but I've talked about it. When you listen to a store-bought 8-track, the problem with 8-tracks, or not the problem, what the challenge is that 8-tracks have 4 tracks. They have 4 programs. Like here's Led Zeppelin. There's the 4 programs. So you have a set amount of time. What you got to do is you got to divide the songs as equally as you can in those 4 programs. So there's not silence in between the programs. Otherwise, it's going to be really a strange experience. So here's the RCAs from 1982. So what you would find with 8-tracks, which was really, really interesting, and part of why I'm enjoying getting them, and when they play, loving them. So if you're really used to an album, the vinyl album, right, or the CD, you know the order of the tracks. When you get them on 8-track, the order is most often different than what you're used to. And it's a really, really strange listening experience. So here's Zeppelin 2 again, right? So if you listen to Zeppelin 2, you know the order. Well, look at the order on this 8-track. It's different than what you're used to. So it's just strange. It's jarring. So when you listen to an 8-track, you're used to, if you, like me, if you listen to albums, I only listen to albums, and you're used to them, a different song pops up, and it's very jarring. But you find it kind of interesting. The other thing about 8-tracks is that the store-bought 8-tracks back then, not only were they in a different order, but there sometimes would be different mixes. I noticed Some Girls, Stones one, like Beast of Burden's got an extra verse in it. And sometimes they would actually replicate the song on the 8-track twice. Here's Kiss, all the Kiss 8-tracks. So, it's a really cool listening experience. And the thing is, in today's digital world, do they sound anywhere near as good as CD? No. And do they sound as good as a really good vinyl album? No, they don't. But they don't sound all that bad either, if you can get one that is still playing. And that's the challenge. So when I go out hunting, I won't pay more than $1 or $2 for an 8-track, and I do my best to play, feel it. There's sponges on them. I'll show you. And in order for it to play correctly, you have to have a lot of resistance. Here's all the Aerosmith 8-tracks. So you could kind of feel the sponge to see if it's going to push against the tape and play well. So that's what I do when I go out there hunting. So all of these play. I've listened to all of this. So, I don't want to get... you're not allowed to play music on YouTube, unfortunately. But here's a brief snippet. Here's Zeppelin 2 on 8-track. See if this thing plays. And it probably sounds like shit, but it actually doesn't sound bad here. Here's the next program. So there's 4 programs. so it's not bad. Listen, I don't buy 8-tracks to listen to the fidelity. I listen to it for the nostalgia, but it's a working nostalgia. I do not buy things just to collect them. Everything, if you know my channel, it's all about physical media that I actually listen to or watch. It's Jay Giles. Love Stinks album. So, it's not that bad, but it's fun. And that's why I collect 8-tracks. The funniest part of this book, Unspooled, by Tim Durling, the funniest part, now I read it, cover to cover, and he met, he met the guys in Nazareth, and he had them sign his 8-track, and they were, blown away. And he did the same thing with Cheap Trick, and they were like, oh, my God. And then Cheap Trick, maybe because I spoke to him, actually had one of their albums done in 8-track. So this way they would get #1 on the charts. They would get the #1 on the album charts for 8-tracks. Pretty funny. So it shows all the latest ones and how his life story of growing up with music, and there he is, framed through his experience with 8-track. The funniest bit at the very end of the book is can I tell you a secret? Can I tell you true confessions? He doesn't have a working 8-track player. He literally collects 8-tracks just to collect them. So, Tim, you are way more serious than me because I only could keep the ones that actually will play. So it's kind of funny. But, so there you go. He's a real collector right there. I don't own an 8-track player. That's crazy. So, but there are people who buy 8-tracks. They get them fixed. There's a company out there that fixes 8-tracks. I'm not that desperate for them. To me, I enjoy the hunt. I like going out there and trying to find an 8-track that will actually play. And if it does, great. It lands here, and I listen to it a couple times. And if it doesn't play, I just dump it. But that's just the way I am. So anyway, a really cool book. We live in a niche world, and it's nice to see that somebody will take the time and talk about their life in a very personable way, framed within the story of 8-tracks, that it turns out at the end he doesn't even have a working player. You got to get a working player, Tim. But Tim Durling, Unspooled, An Adventure in 8-Tracks, forward by Martin Popoff. He was kind enough to send me a review copy because he knows that I'm a fan, and that was really generous of him. But he is actually famous. He's got a really big YouTube following. He's got Tim's Vinyl Confessions, and it's got a really big channel. Tim's Vinyl Confessions, you could check it out. If you're interested in buying a book, I guess it's probably on Amazon as well. He did it through a Kickstarter, which was really cool. So my hat's off to you, man. I can't believe you wrote a book on 8-tracks. And thank you for sending it to me because I am a fan and I have a long history with 8-tracks. And as you realize, as you get older, you go back to your youth. It's a really strange thing. I dumped all my 8-tracks decades ago. Never thought I would want them again. And then all of a sudden, I find my player in a store and I buy it. Now I got to get 8-tracks. Well, it's really hard to find working 8-tracks. So that's the fun part for me. I find 8-tracks all the time, all over for $1 or $2. But just looking at them, I know they're never going to play. But if I find one and I push down on the padding over there, I was like, well, that might actually play. Because sometimes if it doesn't line up right, you get both tracks playing at the same time, which is really annoying. So anyway, there's my story. Let me know what you think. Any interest in 8-tracks back in the day or even now or collecting them? They are kind of cool. I mean, being such a huge Stone fan, what do I have? I got Love You Live and Goat's Head Soup, Hot Rocks. Here's Goat's Head Soup, completely different order. Opens up with Do-Do-Do-Do-Do Heartbreaker. Listen to Goat's Head Soup, you're waiting for Dancing with Mr. D. Nah, it opens up like that. And it's a really different experience, and it's kind of cool in its own way. So anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Hope you have a great day today, and I'll see you next time on the Alan Rosenberg Show. And if you're new to my channel hit subscribe and hit playlists. I got playlists up the wazoo, 400 plus videos. So there's a lot to uncover. Again, thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.